Hi folks, today we have the Nikon Z FC. More importantly, honey, how are you?
Hi. Great.
Great, you always have such long answers. Great, yes, well. In this video we're going to do something a little bit different. In my initial hands-on, I asked for what you want to see tested, put a Google form over at my website, got over 100 responses, so I've chosen out the most popular requests and we're just gonna go test it. First up, we are at an aviary here in the center of Hong Kong, and we're going to test adapted lenses and long lenses and see how they perform on this guy via the FTZ adapter. You want to see some birds?
Let's go.
Yay!
Oh, so hot.
It's like 33 with a real feel of 40 Celsius today. It's disgusting. But birds, let's go see birds.
Let's go.
Stick around folks, after shooting the birds we're going to head over and do some casual photography at a coffee shop, check out Hong Kong's beautiful Victoria Harbour, shoot in Honey's second home, her gymnasium, and test out the ZFC's low light capabilities at night. So for the first lens that I want to test in here, when it comes to birds and wildlife, basically you cannot get too close. I realize for the very first test this is kind of ridiculous, an APS-C tiny camera, but I'm going to adapt my 200mm f2 with FTC adapter. That's going to give us 300mm of reach, amazing image quality. We'll see what the sensor's capable of. Obviously the handling isn't going to be great, but see how the focus and everything does. From memory, the aviary is a bit of a low light situation. See, that works. I think I won't rely on the wrist strap, however. That's going to be a little bit unbalanced. So for comparison size, rather than comparing lens to lens, I think it's probably more apt to compare rear lens cap to camera size. Kind of the same thing. Let's go shoot some birds. So there's actually a couple of different bird parks and aviaries around Hong Kong in the major areas like TST and Central, but this is the only one that I know of that's so big and open with beautiful, colorful birds. The others, they're like behind a cage, so you always end up with that kind of blur in the foreground. So far, this in terms of focus, and what I know the lens gives you amazing image quality, but the focus is working nicely in here. There's actually a cool shot here. Let me get this first. So I actually came here like 6 months ago when the weather was much nicer, and I only had a fixed lens 28mm camera with me. It wasn't ideal for shooting birds. So this kit is kind of fantastic. I'm so glad I kept a hold of this 200 f2 when I sold off my other DSLR gear to KEH Camera. You can check out their full range or get a quote on your gear, links are below. So even though it's daylight, because of the canopy, here at f2.8, I'm already at ISO 200. So it's not like crazy bright despite the crazy heat. Shall we keep going, find some more birdies? There is a bird hiding, well not hiding, but behind a bunch of foliage here. So I'm switching to manual focus override to pull through the branches to try and get him in sharp focus. You know, some lenses are better than others for this, but having the EVF that lets you zoom in really can make a difference to get a shot like this. You know, even if you have a lens that's made for it and focus confirmation. So I am by no means a birding expert. If you're into that kind of thing, you're probably better off watching Tony and Chelsea. But one tip, at a place like this compared to in wildlife where you can't just do a 180 and change your vantage point, here to an extent you can. So finding shots through the foliage where the bird might be like this one sunning, from one side you're going to get the back or the side of its head, from another angle you might be able to get the face. So these images are coming up beautifully. We'll talk about handling a little bit later, but reminder, you can download some sample files. There's a link in the description below. The 200 f2 is a beast of a lens. It's almost redundant to test. This is the 50 to 250. It's made for DX. I mean, it's still a bigger, it takes the same mount, but it's for the smaller actual sensor. And I have a feeling this is going to be slightly more hand-holdable than what I've been using. What do you think? A little bit better?
A little bit makes sense.
A little bit makes sense. And that's a perfect term because I'm already kind of getting to what I think is going to be the takeaway of today's video. And make sensor is a perfect summary. So thank you. Okay, so I am going to use the 50 to 250 and just do tracking, have her walk towards me. I'll start at the long end, I'll keep zooming out. I'm gonna go to high frames per second and just see how many it stays with her. Of course, that means it's going to be 4.5 to 6.3, so it's not a really shallow depth of field to test this. But let's see. Go for it. Yeah, eye autofocus in video seems to be doing as good of a job as like the Z6 II would even. Whew, I think I lost about 1 kilo of water weight already today. The ZFC is performing great. For this kind of thing though, the startup time once it's gone to sleep, maybe it's adjustable, but I don't think so. When you need to wake it up, it does take probably 2 seconds, and there were times where the bird had flown away. Using the 200 f2, astonishing, amazing, unbelievable. I'm so happy I kept that lens. FTZ adapter doesn't seem to slow it down too much. Switching to the 50 to 250, let's have a look at the shots in studio. It looked like it was doing a pretty good job and the stabilization in video was doing well. One thing that a lot of you asked about subject tracking, it seems to be doing just fine. You would assume it's going to be doing as well as the Z50. Now, I'm going to switch out to the 105-1.4. Another of what I think are 2 of Nikon's best ever made lenses for f-mount, the 200 f2 and the 105-1.4. This humble adapter, I know there's gripes, people wish it had different functionality, that it could support older lenses, blah, blah, blah. But this really is your gateway to changing systems, and that's exactly what I did. I sold all of my f-mount gear to KH Camera. Months later, after trying all the systems, decided to go with Nikon Z mount, got the adapter and was able to use my remaining lenses no problem. Check out KH, they're sponsors of this video and long-term partners of the channel. Links are below. You can get 5% extra on the buy or sell side if you're looking to change systems yourself. So, I promised the team we are going to be nice and quick because we are all about to dehydrate and start cramping out. So we're going to get a couple of quick shots here. I've never used this on a crop camera, so it's going to be interesting. 105 is going to become like a 160 or something like that with a super shallow depth of field. So should be fun. Let's get some quick shots and then find some air conditioning. I am such an old white guy. Let's do a little focus test. It's on wide area people, and so pretty good. I mean, it's reasonable light out here, so it can get through all of that. Oh, she's so tricky. But let's get it completely out of focus and see if we can find it. Put your hands down. That's too hard. Okay, no problem. So, I mean, for me, for this kind of situation, I think that's fine. If I were at the Tokyo Olympics, then I might want a bit more responsiveness. Well, it explains why it was so humid. We had a downpour of rain and took that as our cue to head over to the coffee shop and do some kind of vlogging and social media type tests. The cupping room in TST has a beautiful view onto the water, so we headed there, got some, coffee shots and some shots of honey at the window using the 16 to 50 lens. It's looking nice, but with half a day of shooting stills and video, admittedly, how many have we taken? On this charge, today and yesterday, 720 photos and videos total. but it is in the red battery-wise. Next up, we headed out through the mall and onto a car park that has a great little secret lookout onto Victoria Harbour. That's a nice thing to draw out here. And let me get a little philosophical with you for a second. Often I think we get annoyed or frustrated, not because of how things are generally in life, said Poe the wise panda, but because what our expectation wasn't met. When the ZFC was first announced, I talked about how sometimes we have to just take a step back and realize that not every product is designed for us, and that's okay if the brand we love makes a product for a different segment. When I just put out my first hands-on with the ZFC, which Honey is enjoying back there, I got a lot of comments, and I'm not trying to make you wrong for it. Please keep sharing your feedback and comments. I love to read it. But I got a lot of comments of Nikon doing the wrong thing. It should have been full frame. It should have been this. They're killing their market. Who do they think this is for? They shouldn't be wasting time on toys. They should be focusing on building out the Pro range or the Z line or the this or the that to bring in more of the audience. Let's just pause for a second and appreciate that the audience of our channel is predominantly male, predominantly older, like 30 to 50, and much more likely than the general photo taking community to own full frame cameras, and much more likely than the whole worldwide population. So yes, we might have wanted a full frame this, that, or the other, but I want to pull away from that and just for a second think about how Nikon positioned this and talk about how it is, not how it should have been. They position this as a vlogger's camera for people who are going to cafes and taking photos of their coffee and taking selfies and all of that kind of thing. It may have a retro design that appeals to some of us older guys who used an FM2 in the past, but it's not intended to be a full frame pro spec camera. It isn't designed as that, and it doesn't deliver that. So we can't really criticize it for not being some hypothetical thing that we wish it had been. Using it more and more, yes, with an FTZ adapter and big lenses, you can get great results. But I can tell you, in terms of handling, it's just not practical. It's designed and meant to be used with the smaller lenses that are meant for a DX sensor in this kind of a scenario that are handheld. This is if you want something truly pocketable, care about the style, and you're not a professional. I wouldn't recommend this as a backup camera for someone's pro camera. So look, I get it. People want to have a second camera for their full frame camera. Nice to be all in the same system. If you're intending to use your big Z mount lenses or your F mount via adapter lenses, get the Z50. It's the same camera but with better ergonomics and a much more familiar layout. Much better to be able to pick up a camera and know all the dials are in the same place as it is on your full frame. This is a camera for this kind of thing, taking selfies, and that may not be for you, but there is a market for it. And I think these armchair warriors saying, Nikon should be doing this is commercial suicide, don't know what they're talking about. This will sell. The moment Honey started shooting with it, she wants one, and there's a big gap between something like an A7 Mark III and an iPhone that something like this is gonna feel really nicely. So now we're gonna go do some lower light tests, test out the 28mm, do a bit more testing on it before giving you my final thoughts. Reminder, check out KH below and grab some sample files from the whole shoot. They're available free below. I'm sweating again, let's go back into the AC. So, next location, we're at a little bit of an echoey gym, one of 75 different places that Honey works out around the city. And we're just gonna do some fitness shots here. Now, this will actually double as a low light test. In this side that has the brightest lights, let me just check for you. If I were taking her portrait here, I'm gonna be well into the thousands, and the other side is even darker. So I'll do some shots at low light using a fast aperture like the 50mm lens. And then I also have this Profoto Nikon mount flash, which is bigger and heavier than the camera body, but it does a great job of filling a light with room. So we'll get some flash lit shots as well. Hello, Gym Monster.
Hi.
So we're at your second home. Now, I've had a little look at the gym equipment. This is a reality of shooting in any gym. It tends, except for the one we saw at K11, that looks super designer and nice, but most gyms, yes, very nice bra, are just cluttered, and every bit of spare space like this one has had some shit put in there. So here, nice white wall, sweat is fat crying, don't drop the weights. Huge white wall, pain is weakness, leaving the bottle, blah, 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 blah. So there isn't super clean backgrounds, but still we're here to test out the camera and see how the autofocus, ISO and image quality is. So I know this is your new shirt that you got set out we're gonna shoot in. What is this?
This is my new bikini suit.
For competitions?
Yes.
So do you want to just do pose in it, or you'll actually work out in it?
Pose in it, not work out in it.
What about like posing, pretend, like with very light weights, pretending?
This will be a bit weird, but I will wear this in workout.
Okay. So I'm going to start out with the 28mm lens. I've got the 50 and I've got the 24-70, so we'll have a little play. So it was challenging getting a clear background in the gym. We started off with Honey doing some squats with just the barbell, so I could get her going for several minutes without needing to take a break, before moving over to the bench and using a barbell. The shot was still fairly messy, so I used some canned atmosphere and added in a colored LED light in the background to give us a cool effect, and got some shots here with her competition bikini. Suffice to say, the focus was doing quite well in that low light situation, and the results with the Primo lenses are looking really nice. Next up, we headed out to Jordan to do a couple of shots in a back alley and some nightlight shots to see how it was creating background blur using these different fast lenses. And overall, I think the pictures came up really nicely. Let's head back into studio. Okay folks, back in studio now. I've actually already returned all of the loaner equipment. This is a Lego Nikon F. We'll pretend it's the ZFC for the point of this. So I am an MPS member. I've been shooting Nikon for over a decade. I'm a t-shirt wearing, Lego owning Nikon user, but I'm still gonna give it straight to you. So let's just cut straight to it, the too long didn't read it version. Should you buy the Nikon ZFC? There's two clear camps, and I'm not going to just sugarcoat it and say, yes, everyone should buy this. First, the you shouldn't buy it camp. If you're using something like a Z7 II, Z6 II, and you want a APS-C backup body to that camera to use all of the same big lenses in the same way that, you know, when we would have a D850 or a D5, we would often have a D500 as a secondary body. Smaller, lighter, get a bit more reach from your lenses. There you go. I would say no, for two reasons. One, the button layout is different, and switching between bodies, that's just not helpful in the field, to be going from one that has this array of buttons to another one that has the cool retro knobs. It's actually just confusing and going to slow you down. The second thing is the lack of that grip. It has real practical implications for handling beyond, is it balanced? So when you're using any of the lenses designed for that camera, the DX lenses or say the 28mm, it balances great. You can shoot with it one-handed, use the other hand for zooming, and it balances and packs away great. But as soon as you put something bigger like a 24-70, 14-24, 50mm prime, or God forbid like the 200 f2, because there's no front grip, you have to apply a lot of pressure with your thumb on the back of the camera to balance it. And that area is filled with buttons. I was constantly changing settings and it just didn't work for me. Having said that, if you're in the system or not and you want something casual for walk around, you want a lightweight kit, you love the styling, you're going to use it for that more casual style of shooting, then it's a great camera, and I think at a reasonable price, and no reason not to get it. If you are in the Nikon system and you have some bigger lenses, so it'd be nice to occasionally pop the 24-70 on there, then yes, that is an option as well. So as long as you're intending to use it for what it was designed for, in the way that makes sense, then I think it is a really nice option. Just note the optional grip that's going to be coming for the camera is only going to be available in Japan. So factor that in if you were thinking, oh, I'll just get a grip and then that will fix the ergonomics issues. No doubt Small Rig or other brands will come out with third-party ones anyway. So, hope you enjoyed that. Check out the KEH below, check out the download files so you can see for yourself. In terms of high ISO performance, I will have a video coming soon comparing the ZFC to the 56.2 and 7.2, and a video on me attempting to build this nano block Lego Nikon F. Like, subscribe, help me juice the YouTube algorithm so that these videos get recommended to more people. I hope you found it useful, and thank you for your suggestions on how I should test the ZFC over at the website. Cheers, I'll see you soon.